Hey, what's up, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to the Pitlane Podcast, episode 119 today, to review that Canadian Grand Prix, that controversial Canadian Grand Prix. Usual host, myself, Aarava, Callum, and Tom. Guys, the dust has settled. We did that instant race reaction. All three of us were there, and we were all rather pissed off and in a ranting mood. Have we all calmed down, or are we still seething a little bit?
Seething. I'm still frothing at the mouth.
I'm sure.
I'm chilling.
Okay. Well, the dust has settled.
Cool.
Ferrari say they are going to appeal, or they want to appeal. The rules say they really shouldn't have any grounds to appeal because it's a time penalty is added on. But if they present new evidence, they could appeal, but I don't think they have much new evidence. But there's just been more debate really about it, talking specifically about the way Vettel moved the wheel, looking at past examples of people cutting across grass and coming back and whatnot, and people just saying it's a debate about the rules, not what's actually happened there, a calendar that needs to change for the future. What do we all make it? Or any kind of points coming out of us that you guys want to discuss straight away?
Twitter in general has been quite cancerous and toxic.
Polarizing.
It's probably the right word to use for it. I mean, the more I've seen of the arguments between the smaller minority that defended Mercedes and Hamilton, and the people who are the majority who are on Vettel's side and Ferrari's side, in general, it's been overanalyzed now. And as much as the stewards and Ferrari and Mercedes, I think themselves can overanalyze it as much, I think us fans, we've voiced our concern. In general, I think it's probably about an 80-20 split in favour of Vettel and it being a BS penalty. But in general, I think it's just been overanalyzed. And the fact there's been so many videos already. And we've just got to remember, it's something that happened in 2 seconds. And it's been extremely overanalyzed. I mean, we've had all these slow-mos. We've got 6 different camera angles. But there's only one camera angle for Vettel. It was through his eyes and it was in real time. And it was just, I think it's just been a bit too overanalyzed to the point where I think this is where F1 loses its the pure racing and the pure passion in it, when it's being overanalyzed mathematically and people trying to weigh up pros and cons about stuff. It's either should be black and white, and I think that's the moving forwards. We either want the stewards to voice how they've made the decision, or just be let them stand back and just let them race. To be honest, because I mean, have you seen Twitter? It's a graveyard of war.
It's Call of Duty Black Ops 1 ground war. It's
It
lots of
literally
people just throwing stuff at each other, like in an oversized lobby. It's crazy. I don't have much more to add. It's a really good point, to be fair. Well put, Cal. So I think it's just stay off Twitter and let's just, I'd say, move on, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, if you do want to see our raw reaction, we did that instant race reaction. I think that was probably one of the best reaction videos we've done, obviously because it's quite a controversial topic, but I think there's a lot of good points made in that video. And you got to see really how raw it was when we did that whole thing with Vettel moving the boards at the time. And I still think, coming off that, the way Vettel's handled it, I feel has been really good, really good. And I think Luke Smith of Crash.net pointed it out as well in a really good article of, it brought a human side to F1 that needs to be shown a lot more often, and kind of goes in hand with the whole overanalyzing. Like you said, Cal, the thing that matters is it happened in 2 seconds through Vettel's eyes. And, that's a human element of the sport, of like reacting to it and just getting on with it, happened. And then afterwards, after the race was over, that kind of human instinct taking over of being so, annoyed and, wanting to do something to send a message to the crowd and, be defiant. It's all been really cool to see. And it was great response from Vettel. Also the same way of, defending Hamilton, saying fans shouldn't boo him. They should boo the stewards for being so, blind, as he put it. And yeah, they need to do.
Did you see the rubbing salt in the wound, which I think got uncovered today, though, on Instagram and the rest of the socials for F1? They found out that Hamilton stopped to give Vettel a lift down the pit lane. How he stopped at the wrong part of the pit lane. He full well knew where he was going because he just wanted to storm off to his motorhome.
Yeah.
But Hamilton actually stopped and offered to give Vettel a lift. I'm pretty sure there's a certain hand gesture. There was a variety of hand gestures I think Vettel would want to have used when he stopped there. But
and thumbs up is not one of them.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, maybe a little bit adjacent to the thumb. I think that's the best way we can put it. So yeah, let's put that to bed because let's not beat a dead horse. I think the debate's gone long enough. But if you do want to kind of hear our thoughts more, you can go back to that race reaction. But let's talk about then Leclerc for a second, because it was a bit interesting, though, to see Ferrari, for all the good stuff they did with Vettel, they admitted that they forgot to tell Leclerc that Vettel had the penalty, and therefore, they could have done two things. Told him to speed up because he got second place for his race, or pit like Bottas did, and could have got a fast lap of the Grand Prix, which is one extra point. One doesn't seem like a lot, but championships have gone down to the wire before. So just a bit weird, we mentioned it in the reaction as well that, they did kind of mess up a little bit with Leclerc. But the fact they forgot to tell him about the penalty, I feel like the race engineer should have at least been on the ball about, oh, you know what, mate, you could go fast and get second place. It's just a bit weird. It's Ferrari being Ferrari again on the other side of the garage.
I think it's not a bad thing, though, given the circumstance and the context.
Sure,
As a team,
I agree,
in the constructors, they don't gain any more points. It's just two drivers the way around. They don't gain any more points in the constructors, so there's nothing to play for. And I think it would have just really put a sour taste even more. Like, it would have just, for Vettel at least, I think, he's had a very tough last 10 months, you could say. Making the situation any worse than what it was, I think, could really hurt. So I think in a way, it's not that bad. And ultimately, I think it's, in a way, it's also, I think Vettel deserved at least P2 in that race, the way he drove. So, I don't know.
It's almost Ferrari being fair on themselves.
Yeah,
in a way,
kind of.
And on Vettel. But even still, it's the wording, though. It's not like they chose to not tell him. They forgot. How do you forget to tell your driver something? We were in the era of Formula 1 where we're giving drivers too much information, to the point where drivers are telling their race engineers to be quiet. And I think that's a polite way of saying it.
I think if Raikkonen was looking at that, he'd be like, "Why couldn't my engineer forgotten stuff when I was back at Ferrari?"
Because he wanted to shut up a little bit. But it is very silly, and I can see a few Leclerc fans who feel a little bit hard done by, and I can understand why, because they very much. One day Ferrari will understand how to, race with two drivers and make a strategy with two drivers, like. There was an outside chance that Hamilton stayed out for another lap after Vettel pit because Mercedes tried to do the overcut, not even the overcut, because that had pretty much gone out the window. But they were trying to just gain a little bit of tyre life on their next set. Why didn't they pit Leclerc? Because they could have
come out behind Bottas and Verstappen.
Yeah, but so would have Hamilton.
But he didn't, though. He came out in front of Bottas when he pitted.
No, but I swear Leclerc wasn't that far behind at this point.
At the time, he was about 4 seconds behind. It would have been like maybe in between
but
Bottas and Verstappen.
Why not tell Leclerc to catch up a little bit then? This is what I don't understand. Like,
I can understand that in a way. Yeah.
I don't think they pushed Leclerc. Like, you don't hear really much race. I don't know. We didn't hear all the radio traffic anyway. But why not tell Leclerc to be right on the back of Hamilton, giving him as much engine modes as possible, so that when the pit stops have come around, you can go, oh, Leclerc, speed up a little bit, and you might have a chance of undercutting Hamilton.
I think this goes back to Bahrain for me. I mentioned in the podcast, it felt like Ferrari focused too much on Leclerc in Bahrain. They forgot about Vettel. And Vettel got caught up in a bad strategy, and hence Hamilton put him under pressure, and that whole situation happened, and eventually Hamilton got second. Because they left Vettel out too long. Hamilton somehow undercut. They were looking at Leclerc too much, trying to cover him off, and they kind of forgot about Vettel when he got hung out to dry. In this race, same thing happened. I think they were too keen and looking too heavily at Vettel. Like, if you listen to the radio, how Vettel was constantly talking after the penalty decision. It just feels like Ferrari were just all in on Vettel. They put all their chips on Vettel, and just kind of left Leclerc there. And again, it was like one of the ones where they can't really manage two cars.
It's definitely a Ferrari thing, yeah. It's they've always found it hard.
I think going back to that point again, maybe why did they forget about Leclerc? Again, it does seem like, and I do think maybe in a way Vettel didn't actually shut up during that entire final part of the race once he got the penalty. If the radio has anything to go by, I bet he's just constantly ranting on the radio. And people,
and another thing, and another thing, and another thing.
No, listen, I am focused, but listen to this. Right?
I'm listening, all right? I'm
I've
listening.
got this next essay I want to talk about.
Welcome to my TED Talk.
I do want to mention briefly, but before we completely leave this for dead, and it's not about the penalty because we're done with that now, but it was weird to me with Vettel this weekend. I actually forgot how good of a driver he can be after this weekend, after qualifying. Like it genuinely reminded me of how good of a driver when it's all going perfectly, how quick he really is, because it's been that long since he's had a good weekend. Personally,
yeah,
that qualifying,
you've got to think of it on the behalf that I saw tweets coming into this weekend where people were going, "Oh, could you imagine if we've already seen Sebastian Vettel's last race victory?" I was like,
I was thinking that as well. I was thinking that as well, though, in a way. Like thinking,
but
we saw it live. We saw it live.
Ferrari have got it bad, but like what Canada's now showed to us is the fact that when Ferrari do get it right, when they've got it in this very small operating window, they do get it right. Like they have got a car to win races, but the problem is the Mercedes is too well rounded. So it'll only be the odd, literally every 1 in 6 races.
I think we place like Silverstone, like Monza. Monza's going to be a really good chance for Ferrari.
Spa as well. I think Spa's to be a strong track for them.
But for them to I think they'll be really strong at Monza, which is going to be great for them, obviously, because it's been a hot minute since they've won at their home GP and Canada.
Austria as well.
Yeah, potentially Austria, power circuit as well.
Think of tracks. Yeah.
For sure, yeah. But yeah, I would tend to agree with you, Tom, in a way of like, yeah, I still regarded him as a very probably a better driver than other people were slagging him off for on Twitter before this Grand Prix just gone. Yeah. But it kind of did fully remind you, like, yeah, when everything's clicking, he is like there was a reason why he was so dominant. Well, not so dominant, but he was very dominant when things were clicking for him at Red Bull. Of course, there's been way more dominance in Mercedes era now, but yeah, I mean, when things go his way, he's just, you know, he's got that swagger about him where he can just kind of control things like, oh, we've got this issue to deal with. Okay, cool. Let me know. Like the whole thing with is the steering wheel numbers correct? I just want to make sure because I'm checking the fuel, you know, making sure I can save this and whatnot. Keeping Hamilton at bay. I mean, it was all very smooth.
It's been long. You know, we saw his last win live at Spa last season, but his last pole was Germany before that infamous race. You know, Germany last year, that's a long time.
It is a long time,
I do also want to mention just briefly, like overall, I think with Ferrari, I mentioned it in the Monaco reaction podcast we did, when it was just you and me.
Right, yeah.
And I made the key point of saying that second place at Vettel, I said this off air, but the second place at Vettel in that race, quietly after such a bad weekend, a scruffy weekend for Ferrari at Monaco, could be a big turning point for them this season. And they've turned up at Canada, albeit you could argue it suits their car. They did a good job. They're second and third, really first and third, let's be honest. And again, they're going to France. Apparently, they've got a big upgrade package. So, like I said, it could be the start. If it's going to happen,
it could.
This season,
it's going to be.
Got to be now.
Yeah.
So there's positives there for them.
I'm looking forward to just seeing what Ferrari can do. I mean, they've been in the media. They've been, especially Binotto, has just been like, you know what? We haven't really got that many upgrades come in. There is a key fundamental problem with our car. We're not changing our concept, but it's going to take a while before upgrades are coming to our car, which I respect from Ferrari because they are putting their hands up and saying, yeah, I've got it wrong. But yeah, I agree with the fact that everything needs to be in place, and it's going to be a long, hard struggle. And this weekend, if anything, yeah, Mercedes were very, 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 very lucky with the result they got. But even what Vettel said, he was like, he didn't even care about the championship at this point. It was just Vettel was so cheesed off. He was just like, I want to win a race at least.
Yeah.
He just wants to win a race in a season just to see if he can get away with it. But can we also talk, before we move away from the top two, can we talk about a certain Finnish driver that
he was
went
nowhere,
a bit
mate.
quiet?
He was nowhere. It was Bottas 1.0 again.
That was the first time, and even I'm saying this all season, he's been nowhere. Like there's been you can argue like I think it was like China or something. I don't know. There was a race or two where he was like but he was still kind of there, even in qualifying. But this weekend, it was nowhere. Like he made a mistake in qualifying, and the race pace couldn't get past the Renault. That was
It wasn't good.
Bottas. No, but that's the first time though this season you could say he's been really bad.
Yeah, I mean every driver can have an off race, but
exactly.
That was back to 2017 Bottas in a way. Like that was bad. That was a very bad race. And the thing is, I mean, you can't look at his race time because obviously he went to go get fastest lap and he did so by like 1.5 seconds or something stupid like that. But what was interesting is it was mostly blamed on overheating issues, which I don't know whether or not the Mercedes differ between their cars when it comes to how much cooling they put on their car. But Hamilton was tucked up behind Vettel all race as well. Let's not forget that. And so was Bottas behind the Renault. So it was just quite peculiar to me why he was struggling so much compared. I mean, obviously it might be a bit harder on his brakes, a bit harder on his tyres maybe. He might not be able to manage it as well. But this is supposed to be the Bottas that everyone was calling world champion by round 2. Or even round 1 after that brilliant win in Australia. So it was quite bemusing to me. But they did blame it all on the car just overheating all race.
Yeah, it's a weird one. I think it's important now for him to bounce back the next race now. He needs to bounce back and be strong to make sure it's just a little blip. Because I think that's sometimes how you kind of separate the men from the boys, is when you do have adversity like that, have an off race like that, where you can bounce back straight away and be strong. Yeah, let's hope for his sake it was the car. But yeah, I kind of agree. That kind of does sound a bit weird.
His second half of the race was good. He had, once he was in clean air, he got past that Renault. He had good pace. You know, the pace was so good that he pulled out a gap to the point where he could obviously pit again and come in. But it was too late. It was kind of like, actually, no, never mind. I was going to make a MotoGP comparison, but it's not relevant. So, but yeah, he just found pace in the second half of the race. It was really weird. It's like he all of a sudden discovered where the car was, because before that, you know, he spun in Q3. Like, it was just a messy weekend from him altogether. Both Mercedes really, because Hamilton crashed in FP2, which is
of course,
rare.
It was in general, a bit of a messy preparation for Mercedes that weekend. But moving away from Mercedes and Ferrari, talking Red Bull. Well, obviously Verstappen had to make his way through the order from what was P9 eventually on the grid because of penalties. So it wasn't too horrendous, but still had traffic to deal with. And he started on a harder compounder tyre compared to everyone else. So that was a kind of waiting game to kind of be in the right window where that tyre was then the faster tyre. And then Gasly, he was, P5 behind Ricciardo and eventually finished down in P8.
This is the one we've got to talk about. We're talking about a certain finish driver. The pressure's building on Gasly a bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
He needs the result.
I mean,
there's another driver we'll get onto in a minute, but Gasly's the one for me.
He was, for once, he outqualified his teammate, not because of Verstappen's fault, but he outqualified his teammate. He was probably not on the best strategy, having to get in, but that's kind of his fault because he could only manage to get into into Q3 on a set of softs rather than a set of mediums, like obviously what the top 4 managed. It's quite strange. Pardon?
I wouldn't say that was his fault because I think Verstappen would have got through on softs as well. They were going to do that. That's
do you reckon? Okay, well, that's fair enough. But even still, it wasn't the best strategy. But so were the Renaults. Like, they were on the not ideal strategy as well, and they still managed to pick up P7 and P6. Which, side note, brilliant weekend. Bearing in mind, I remember the last podcast that we did, we all scrapped off Renault in our predictions.
I mean, I think at the time of the race, everyone was surprised by where on earth does this pace come from, because they're obviously not great in a straight line still, because they brought no upgrades in terms of engines, but their car was just working supremely in the other sectors, not the end of Sector 3 and start of Sector 1. So
I think in general now we've moved away from this engine formula, and not necessarily, I know we've been speaking about Ferrari and the fact that they've got this straight line advantage, but the fact that Mercedes have been able to keep up because they're so mega through the corners throws it back to 2010 when it was Red Bull and their aerodynamic advantage. It's kind of like that sort of vibe again.
It's slowly come back to a point where if you have a good enough car, it can balance it out,
I still think there's an element of Ferrari and Mercedes have an extra 5% that Honda and Renault don't.
Oh, for sure,
but the gap's definitely closing.
But anyway, Gasly.
Back to Red Bull. Yeah,
he's
Gasly.
under the cosh now.
Yeah, well, because people are making the point, and I said it in the last podcast, and this wasn't intentionally for this topic, but I did mention in the last podcast, Kvyat's been on a good run of form lately. Really good run of form. Again, this weekend, he got P10 when Toro Rosso looked really poor. Even Albon had
and that brilliant move at the end of the race on Sainz.
Exactly, yeah. And I think that's 3 in a row now for Kvyat. And the last race in Monaco was his best ever points finish with Toro Rosso in terms of position. P7, I think it was.
Yeah.
So he's in a good bit of form. And,
I don't know what's going wrong. I think like Verstappen is doing an incredible job. Like, and out of this world job with that Red Bull. Like, he's doing brilliant.
I think he's doing really good because he's even said the Red Bull compared to last year has got worse relative to the rest of the order, basically, in terms of Ferrari and Mercedes. Like, they've gone backwards relative.
Which we can see.
Which we can see. And yet he's still dragging up to pretty much where kind of Red Bull kind of were operating anyway this time last year.
They've been ahead of Ferrari pretty much the whole season. Like, in qualifying, even in race, like, whenever Ferrari have faltered, it's always been Verstappen.
Yeah, and it's been a much more mature Verstappen. You know, we even before this Canadian Grand Prix, he literally told JB on the grid that he needs to be a bit cautious, not get caught up, then he can start attacking. Whereas I think Verstappen of old would have just been like, you know, I'm just going to fully send it. I need to attack straight away. And that combination has meant he's done such a solid job, which is making Gasly's deficit even bigger.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, you two know that I have a soft spot for Gasly. I wanted him to do well, but there's only so many times I can defend him and kind of hope that, oh wait, no, he'll come.
It's like Van Dorn again, though. It's like the same thing again. It's just you're waiting for it, but it's not happening.
Yeah,
but the problem is as well, like, especially regarding this race, it's embarrassing because it's the two cars that Christian Horner would really not like to finish in front of.
Yeah, it's two
like,
Renaults.
That's really, really bad on Red Bull when it looks at it. Like, the fact that they scrap their engines and Renault are outperforming them with their own engines.
Yeah.
But they weren't
it's
even
just
out-raced.
not good at all.
They were out-qualified.
Out-qualified, yeah. Which is mental. Absolutely mental.
Yeah.
Which we haven't seen a Renault up that high since, especially at Canada, I think since 2006, back when Alonso qualified that high.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's 13 years.
Yeah. I think
a lot's happened in that time.
I think the last time Renault got that P4 was when Kubica was driving for them. So it's been a long while, and Ricciardo did a
back
brilliant
2010.
job.
Yeah.
Ricciardo did a brilliant job in that qualifying. You saw he was beaming on Instagram with his just like funny little selfie post of like, yeah, that's great, isn't it? Yeah.
It was just like, hi, P6, happy.
Yeah, literally like.
I mean, you can see he's getting the car underneath him now. I think he said the other day, like, he says he's starting to get that comfort level. His big problem this season has been getting the front end to work, which is what he said. And you can see the last two races, even Monaco, he showed signs of like he could put something together. Like, he qualified best of the rest of Monaco as well. And he just got caught out by a really bad strategy in the race. But the actual qualifying was electric. And again, that lap, like, only half a second off, you know, the big boys around Canada, around a power circuit.
It's good. It's
very
really
commendable.
Good. Yeah, very good.
And they've got their home race next, so it's good timing. You know, they better hope they can keep that up.
Yeah, good momentum.
What's also good as well is the fact that it's only race 7, and he's already getting to grips with that Renault. Like, bearing in mind as well, I think, obviously, Ricciardo can take the L a little bit when it comes to just this season in general, but Hulkenberg not so much. But if he wants something to boost him a little bit, is the fact that it's only race 7. He's already got his act together, so he can use the rest of the season to carry this momentum just to get to know the team even more, so then he can hit the ground running at the start of next season.
Do you think he's taking an L?
Who, Hulkenberg?
Ricardo.
No. Ricardo's taking the W.
Oh, okay. No, I thought he was taking a bit of an L.
No.
Yeah, cool. That one.
But Hulkenberg can take the L a little bit, even though he did do quite well. He's just being outraced by someone who's only been in the team for 7 races.
He's had a few reliability issues this season, Hulkenberg.
That's true.
A few more than he normally has. But it was a good race from them. Both of them. Like, even Hulkenberg, he had gearbox trouble and still managed to.
Still managed to, and that's the thing as well. Gasly wasn't even challenging Hulkenberg. Like, he was a solid 2-3 seconds behind him all race. He wasn't actually trying to overtake him as such. It's not like it was when Bottas was trying to overtake Ricciardo, which was also very strange. Why was Bottas so scared to overtake Ricciardo?
Yeah, that was a
porridge
Bottas.
boss, whatever his name is now, is fully gone out the window.
Yeah.
If someone shaved his beard off.
Yeah, I think someone shaved his beard Sunday morning. That was a joke on Twitter. Someone shaved his beard off.
Yeah, definitely. Bottas 1.0 was there when he tried to make that move, and he just didn't pull it off the first time. Needed 2 attempts. But after Gasly, Lance Stroll, the man that Gasly kind of got fed up with, he was held up. Like, I remember, like, midway through the race, Horner was like on the radio to Sky, like, yeah, Gasly we need to get past Stroll, otherwise this will ruin our race. And what do you know? It ruined his race. Stroll P9 at his home GP, fair play. I mean, he was very happy with it.
Yeah, he sounded it.
Yeah.
No, that was a masterstroke strategy from Racing Point to put him on the hards and to carry them so long. I mean, it was that thing where it was like, so Stroll still hasn't pitted, and then a couple laps later, he still hasn't pitted.
Yeah.
Is Stroll going to pit at some point? Does he know the rules? And eventually did. Came out in a brilliant spot as well. It's not like he was in traffic or anything. he did the work in the first stint to basically pay off for the second, and he was cooking on gas till the end of the Grand Prix, really.
Yeah. A little bit disappointed with, didn't hear it in full, but the post-race message not once credited the team, which is a little bit awkward, a little bit no-go in my book. Because, again, I put a tweet out the weekend. I can't remember what it was. I think it was just before the weekend started or something, or after practice. And I said, like, I don't think I've ever seen a guy so miserable, in interviews. It's just like, it's just so down, and he's always like, those kind of things. He's not really animated. It makes Kimi Raikkonen look like he's just jumping around the fairground. And then we finally see that eruption of like, oh, I got P9, yes, and it's all like, I don't know, it wasn't thanking the team or like being happy for the work or the progress on the car. It's just like, oh yes, I did it, yes, and I wasn't too keen on it, to be honest with you. It was a bit like,
his attitude isn't the best.
You've been negative all season, and it finally goes well, and you don't want to give anybody any credit,
Yeah.
Like even Lewis, like when Lewis wins, he's like, "Oh, thank you guys so much."
But that's the problem. Though. People just roll their eyes at that. Like, oh, same thing every single week, which you can understand. But it is solid because he does always credit his team, and even when Hamilton was speechless in the interviews this weekend, because obviously he got asked about the penalty, and he was like, "Well, the team did great.
Yeah,
like they did solid to fix my car and all this, that, and the other on Sunday morning." But I understand what you're saying. I mean, I wouldn't analyse it too much, but yes, I do. Of course. It is a little bit of a slap in the face of Racing Point, who have struggled. They've done a brilliant job anyway regarding the resources.
It was them that put him on that strategy as well. Nothing. Great strategy, boys. Nothing at all. It was just, yes, P9.
Yes, I did it all. I mean, fair play if he went, yes, I want to stop for soft tyres on this exact lap. Then fair enough. But yeah, but either way, you're still going to give it to him. It was sort of a really decent result. Really happy to see Racing Point pick up more points, and that midfield battle in the championship is ridiculously close anyway. So they do need to pick up points here and there, especially when I think the big boys who are really missing from the top 10, McLaren, nowhere to be seen. Obviously, after Sainz getting bumped out right at the last minute, it's quite good to see both Renault and Racing Point picking up points when the big boys McLaren start to drop off.
Yeah, well, that's a frustrating race for them. Because
bad luck, literally bad luck.
After the top 10, Sainz P11 had that, what was it, the brake duck issue, so they had to pit him so early for that. I mean, kudos, he did a great job to get up into P11, being on hard tyres for that long, I think, to stay there, because it was such an early stop. And then Lando Norris, the weirdest DNF in a while, where
we still don't know.
His, what was it, his suspension melted?
That's what Brundle said, but we still don't know.
We don't know. And McLaren have said today that they still don't know what failed.
Because he didn't hit the wall, so something just failed. So either it was melting or it just cracked or whatever.
I wouldn't be surprised if it melted, because then obviously all the sensors probably would have gone with it, maybe. I don't know.
Perhaps, and there was a fire there, so, it's just very, very odd.
Very strange.
Very strange.
Very rare that we've seen a failure like that, because obviously he thought it was a puncture at first, but... Yeah, it's a shame for Norris because he was not in the race for long, and his brakes were fading from pretty much the word go. But he did start in a good position, and I was just a little bit disappointed because Norris has been on a right good run of form recently.
But they both have in a way. The
reliability's
been hit and miss, but I mean they both got Q3, and I think generally speaking, this year, if you take out of the picture the reliability issues, they've just generally been a lot more consistent this year.
Oh yeah.
There are a few races where they're not so quick, where you expect them to not be so quick, and then there's other races where they turn up. In many ways, Monaco they got a result out of nothing, and Canada they threw away. Well, not threw away. They lost a result that they expected in a way. So it's kind of about more or less evened itself out in a way.
They should have performed though here of all places, because they have been renowned for being quick in a straight line.
They did though in a way. The issues they're out of their control, weren't they? It's not something they
fully. I think they definitely got suppressed very hard with the DNF, and Sainz's race was pretty much ruined with that very early stop. So I think it's a real mega shame, but McLaren can take solace from that they still look great, and so just hope that next time France roll on, no issues, could be another okay one for them. That long back straight, then they could do some good overtaking around there around Paul Ricard. So
Vettel will get them next time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they will definitely try and get them next time. Perez P12. Then we didn't see much of him. Well, I didn't see much of him in the race on the TV screens really. He went, what was it, medium to hards. So
just that overtake. Into turn one. Just that one overtake into turn one, which was...
Yeah, so, that was a bit of an odd one. He just ghosted again. So, it's a bit of a weird one for Racing Point, because they either kind of turn up a little bit and you see them there, or they kind of just ghost away and you don't. So it's kind of, well, they're almost like Haas of last year in a way. But we'll get to Haas later because they're even worse now. But Alfa Romeo, Giovinazzi, P. I'm just saying how it is. It is what it is, isn't it?
Savage.
Alfa Romeo, P13 for Giovinazzi, Raikkonen P15, and just another really tough Grand Prix for Alfa Romeo. Really, really tough Grand Prix. They just can't get their car working as much as they want to, really. And
here's my one. So on the topic of Bottas and Gasly, Giovinazzi, still pointless. The only driver, bar Williams, I believe, to not have a point yet. It echoes of Grosjean last season. But, he's been out-qualified by Kimi easily. It's just, again, someone
apart from this Grand Prix, I think.
Yeah, I think it's 6.
Yeah.
I think
this was Giovinazzi's best qualifying, I think, of his career, I think.
True.
Yeah.
But, again, we're waiting for something with him as well. It's like, same as Gasly, okay, I'm sure you turn up soon, like this driver, he's got a good pedigree, he's got a good record, but, we know Raikkonen can blow hot and cold. You could probably say Raikkonen isn't at the peak of his powers, and if he's not beating Raikkonen right now, then, questions have to be asked as well, I think, in a way.
Funnily enough, you're not the only one. I thought this as well going into this weekend. I was just watching Giovinazzi and I was like, he hasn't actually done anything yet. And it's race 7. Like, bearing in mind, every single driver, I think, apart from the drivers that apart from Gasly, maybe, every driver has excelled at least some point. Like, Stroll has finally excelled this weekend. We've seen it from Sainz, Norris, Albon. We've seen it for both Toro Rossos, both Renaults. Like, every single driver has at least excelled at some point this season. I think the only 2 drivers that really haven't, or 3, are Gasly, Kubica, and Giovinazzi. And by race 7, going into race 8, you've kind of got to be pulling your finger out.
Well,
at least
every
showing
time...
a little bit. Which is why Grosjean, I think, always keeps his seat, because he has those odd couple of races where it is brilliant, and he gives an excuse for it has to go, you know what, he's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, every time we've seen Giovinazzi in interviews, it's just been like, just excuses of like, oh yeah, we're just not there with the car yet. Just I had issues setting up the car. It's just like, eventually, mate, you're gonna have to actually just pull it out of the bag and do something. Otherwise, just say, yeah, I'm just not up to pace right now. Instead of
the Alfa definitely hasn't been great.
No, they definitely are struggling with setups, I think.
Kimi's proven that you can get points with it. There are moments.
It's coming off the back of last weekend when Giovinazzi went, or the other weekend when he went. Giovinazzi, Raikkonen was there. So we're lacking in speed. That's about it. Your whole car, then, mate.
This weekend, he just really just gave a one-word interview, one sentence. He was like, "Yeah, we're just losing a little bit everywhere." And then someone replied saying,
it's all a bit
"And
crap.
what exactly is everywhere?" And he just replied saying, "Yeah, everywhere." And he just walked off.
Yeah. Yeah, I think...
Kimi being Kimi, as usual.
Yeah, him being Kimi, and then also, I think, it is a bit of a situation they need to try and turn around Alpha, because there was so much promise pre-season. It should, all the preparation for this year should have meant that they could turn really on to actually focusing of a good, solid midfield challenge. And right now, they're slipping away a little bit after such a good start with Raikkonen, with the results like Tom mentioned. So, yeah, it's hopefully a turnaround kind of time for this next portion of the European season for them. Haas, moving on to them then, we mentioned Grosjean pulling some out of the bag. Certainly didn't pull anything out of the bag this weekend, P14. And Magnussen, well, he crashed, obviously, in qualifying, so he had to rebuild the car. And one of the best quotes that I think Rich Energy will definitely be using in their PR marketing is the worst experience he's had in a race car ever. So that was great.
And getting shut down in 0.2 seconds by
that wasn't very smart from Mag, and he did apologise, which fair play to him. And apparently it was more revealed now that in the media that
he was talking about
the reason he said that, tyres and the fact that it's becoming too tyre dependent as like just Formula 1 in general. And the fact that they went with a different route with setup after, obviously, because they were starting from the pit lane, they just thought, sod it. We were going to try a different route with setup, and apparently they went in the complete wrong direction to what Grosjean's. I mean, Grosjean was no better, but at least I think he could at least probably drive it a little bit better and was a little bit more in contention and not behind one of the Williams, the lead Williams of George Russell. But bad weekend for Haas, like bad. I can't wait for Drive to Survive though if they did Canada. Oh, I've just realised.
The amount
I think at the front, because Hamilton, Mercedes have now said they're in Drive to Survive, so they can do the uproar of. I hope Ferrari have been in it, because otherwise it's going to be a bit of a bittersweet episode.
I reckon they'll use the fact that Mercedes were in it to kind of lean a bit on what Ferrari did, I think.
But we're not going to see the passion from Ferrari and Vettel
that's
being so
gonna be
annoyed.
Yeah.
But then we're going to also see probably Gunter Steiner and Magnussen having another argument. So
Yeah. Have
that'll
some
be fun.
F-bombs in there. Have some F-bombs from good old Steiner. So
Oh,
that'll be...
Got a bit of Steiner.
You know,
That'll be-
the Saturday from Renault as well, Ricardo. There'll be some scenes there, I'm sure.
Yeah, no.
After
I
that
think this
qualifying.
weekend was a solid one for a lot of things happening everywhere, really. And Williams, well, things happening with them. Russell, like you said, Cal, was ahead of Magnussen, so that's something. Moving on. There's nothing much else to say, really, is there? Commit to
Yeah.
P18, and that's it. That's the T. So that's the Canadian GP. It was a really enjoyable one to watch, and obviously, like I said, one in like the first GP in like 3 races where we felt like this deep dive is actually going to be a meaningful deep dive into talking about the entire grid. So hopefully you guys did enjoy it as much as we did. Is there anything else you guys want to touch upon before we wrap up? Coming off that Canadian GP?
I'll just say we apologise if about 0.2 seconds after this podcast goes up, the appeal has been overturned and Vettel's won the race.
Of
No,
course,
no, look,
in true
that probably
fashion.
would have happened. Yeah.
In true
Putting it out
fashion,
there.
it will happen just later this evening, or pretty much later this evening. It's actually,
Or as we
it's-
do our first shot on Saturday, it's like, oh yeah.
It's
we're
happened.
all
It's
going
happened
out.
before.
Yeah.
Like we've uploaded before, and like 10 minutes after we've uploaded, news has come out. So there have been stranger things. So watch this space. You know, like Wednesday. I don't know. I'm guessing this podcast will go up around 3 p.m. So Wednesday, 3:30.
PM.
Expect some news. Yeah. Or like
Yeah,
Cal said,
I'll wait
on
for it.
Saturday when some of us are out, just sort of like, the weekend started. Oh wait, there's some news, and we're not anywhere near a PC to record
Cancel
it.
plans.
Cancel plans. Do a news update half intoxicated. So yeah, we'll see about that. But we definitely have we haven't cursed anything this season yet, though. I
We've
don't
done
think.
quite well this season.
I think there has
It's been
been a
a while.
podcast curse. Yeah, that's saying a lot. We're due one basically.
I'm knocking wood here, just...
Yeah, I'll not wood as well. So yeah, we're due one. So we'll see about that. But yeah, that's been the review then of the Canadian GP. Like I said, guys, if you did enjoy it, then be sure to hit that like button. Let us know what you thought about anything we talked about in the comments below. I'm sure there'll be still some debates and ranting and raging going on about that decision between Vettel and Hamilton. So let us know all that good stuff in the comments below. If you are new around here, do get subscribed to this channel for the podcast. Check out all 3 of us Twitter links on screen the entire time. And as has been on the screen, you can check us out on audio, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, on the go. If you do like what we're doing around here, you can check us out directly on Patreon and support us that way directly. A link in the description is there. Or you can check out GT Omega and get yourself a racing chair or a desk chair and use the code PitlaneF1 at checkout, and that will directly give us a nice kickback. But that's been the Canadian GP review. We'll see you guys next time for the Off Race Week podcast to discuss any F1 news. And I'm sure, like I said, we probably just jinxed it, so let's wait for that. And we'll see you guys then. Hope you enjoyed us today. Goodbye.
Can we do the whole podcast in the Scouse?
Dear God, no.
Okay, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. So we're going to talk about the Canadian
God.
Grand Prix.
The Canadian
From Ferrari, they overturned the decision, penalty.
Fucking stewards, man.